We are going to start building out our playable space level design with the tiles we've just imported. So first we're going to set up our level a little bit. This is our demo map again. So this is our spawn position, our player start actor. Its location is 0, 0, and the Z is 112. So let's just make that 0. So we don't need these 3D meshes anymore. So we're just going to go ahead and delete them. This, and we also don't need the sky sphere, this scrolling cloud texture blueprint sky sphere. We're going to go ahead and delete that as well. That leaves us with just light source and atmospheric fog. Okay, we'll come back to that a little later maybe. So we're building this whole tile-based level here only on one axis. Remember, it's one plane sort of existence in the world. We can see here from the widget that when the player spawns in on the side scroller game, they move on the Z-axis and they move on the X-axis. They move side to side on the X and up and down on the Z. The Y, which is the green color here, that's the depth of the game world. And since we're spawning in at a depth, so to speak, of 0, we're going to put all of our tiles along that zero axis as well, or at least most of them. We'll see that a little later. So let's see, we'll go to our sprites, our environment sprites. And we'll just start building out some things here. Let's look through this for a nice simple, let's grab this one. We'll place it in the world and it's way back there. Okay, let me just delete that. We're going to go to front view for building our world. This is where we'll do most of our building. We'll put this in and we can see by default it puts it at 0 Y value. So let's just go ahead here and let's see, let's make a few of these. We'll just all drag them to duplicate them. And remember, they snap to the grid, so it should be pretty easy to do here. I'm going to start off by making just a big platform for our player to stand on here. So we can see the collision capsule of the player start. So we'll move this below it. Oops, I don't want that. You can see already it's colliding with the collision of the sprites, so we'll just move that down a little. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. We'll make this a little longer here. I'll quickly spend a few moments here cloning these to make a nice row of the cement blocks. So that's good. We'll save this. And let's see, I don't know why the bad size is still there. It shouldn't be a bad size anymore. There we go. Just had to refactor itself. So if I hit play now, okay, we see our character. Oops, let me click in the window so I can move. There we go. You can also see the images getting really washed out and white. There's some camera settings we're going to have to tweak a little bit. The ones that are following and attached to the player with the spring arm here. Okay, so we're actually on it. We can see our sprite feet are floating a little bit above the tiles. So we can check this out one of two ways. We can double check. If we double click our environment tile, we look at collision. We can tell the collision is flush with the pixel edges here, so it's not that. So that leaves the other culprit, which is our player character. And let me move to front view. Oh yes, and we left this, last time we left this, I'll go to perspective first. We left this showing the shooting animation so we could align the origin for the projectile. So by default, we want to change that back to idle just because it might cause epilepsy. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see, anim shoot, anim idle, right? Okay. I guess it wouldn't cause epilepsy, but flashing, I don't know, might give you a seizure. So there we go there, that's all right. So yeah, I'll go back to front view. And we can see the collision capsule, which we cannot move because it's inherited. but we can shrink it a little or we can move the sprite up or down. So I'll tell you this, let's move our sprite, but we'll also need to move the arrow projectile origin. Let's move it down a little bit here. We can see, let's see, let's move it down a few. We'll compile and save this. We'll hit play and see how it looks now. Still, it's a little low. I guess I moved it too far. So let's move it up a little. Rats. Okay. Arrow, sprite selected at the same time. Compile and save. We'll check it again. That's okay. That's definitely better. All right. Another thing we're going to check out here real quickly. Remember again, if we look at play, we can see things are getting very overexposed, I think. So we'll check our camera settings then, and we'll look at, let's see here, color grading, lens, auto exposure. We want min and max brightness set to 1. That should stop that from happening. Let's see if that does. Yes, there we go. Now we see it's an even exposure as we expect it to look. So that's more what we want. There's one last small artifact you might have noticed when I move the character back and forth really fast. Do you see that blur effect? Right there, that's something else that's being done by the camera. You also see it a tiny bit, but less obvious on the shooting animation. But that's being caused by the motion blur setting on the camera, so we're going to disable that as well. It should be the last thing we want. Here we go, under rendering features in the camera. Motion blur, just select amount, and I'll just turn it to 0. And so if I play now, and quickly spin our character back and forth, you'll notice we don't see that motion blur anymore. So now that we have the basic setup here for our sprite-based world, we will work on fleshing out an interesting level design with movement challenges and obstacles for the player to move around in.